I think it's all many councillors here, so I don't think we need any introduction.
No.
So the first item is apologies. I've got apologies from Councillor Mohammed Amir. On the agenda we've got declaration of interest. Public question time. No members of the public here. Minutes of the previous meeting.
Move those.
Thank you. And item 4 is the revenue and capital budget monitoring 2023-24 quarter 3 report. Councillor Dilwood.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sure Damon and Gemma Louise may want to chip in. I just wanted to highlight some of the figures that we've got here. I think this is, given the overall backdrop to local government finance and the particular problems that we faced with underfunding over the years, this is quite a good position, and I think we should celebrate the fact that the finances haven't turned around, but at least there's a hiccup in the slow erosion of the resources that we've got. And I think there are two things. First of all, last financial year there was a £1.2 million raid on the reserves, and obviously that was the previous administration. And if you look at the front page of the report, paragraph 2 is showing that the underspend is now set to be in excess of £500,000, and I think that's extremely good news. For the most part, it's due to the money that we've got in the bank earning more interest, so that income is greater than anticipated. But it's also because of some of the changes that we have effected or are effecting as a consequence of the work during the year. And I think the major issue there is the conclusion of negotiations with Liberator and the signing off on an agreement that through till 2030 will save this authority well over £1 million, and I think that is to be commended, and I will pay tribute to Rose and Richard, who's gone to pastures new, for the work that they did on that, but we will see the benefit of that as long as we don't have government commissions coming in when we get towards 2026 and the following years through to the end of the decade. So I think that is good news. When we come on to the next report on the agenda, I think that will be more than outweighed by bad news, but let's continue to look at the positive. The other figure that I wanted to highlight was at the top of page 3, and it's the leisure trust and the need for some additional spending on the repairs and maintenance, and in future we'll come back to that, but the increase estimated at the moment is at least 50,000 a year, and that's something that will continue into the future. As I say, it is something that I will return to, if not in this meeting, when we get to the budget meeting as well. So I think I would commend the work that Gemma Louise has been doing, and the work that the other officers have been doing. I think long may it continue, and we are set to benefit as a consequence of that work with reduced pressure on reserves, and hopefully putting a little bit back in. So I move the report.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Whip. I'll happily second the report. You know, echo everything that David has just said. It's very positive. Again, mainly because of the current shared administration's management and the commercial investment that we're receiving. And yeah, a big thank you to all the management team and Pendle Council staff for playing their role with everything that's happening. So I really appreciate that. And if that can be taken back, like I said, to yourselves as a management team and also the staff, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Leaf.
No, just go with the vote, Chair.
Councillor Nadeem.
Yeah, want to echo the points in terms of thanking the management team and staff for their hard work. But just going back to the underspend of over just over $500,000, can I ask if somebody can answer the question in terms of how that's broken down? So there's been 2 points which we mentioned. Firstly, in terms of the interest that we've received. So how is that broken down in terms of that figure? How much is the interest, and how much is it down to cuts or efficiency savings?
I can answer it, and I'm sure that Jim and Louise will come in. I think first of all, it's been reported throughout the year that obviously we're benefiting from the investment income and the interest on balances. We know where interest rates are, we've said that. I think it's going to outturn about 1.3 million. The budget is about 700, is it? 700,000 is the budget, so you could say that 600,000 excess of the budget equates to the positive replenishment of the reserve, really. I couldn't come up with a figure at the moment in terms of say how much has been through efficiency and cuts and savings. I'd have to analyse, if you like, last year's budget and say how much of that have we realised. If we set a target of 1.5 million, I'd have to know by the end of this year how much of that we've delivered. But that will have been costed into the budget for last year. But it is something we can work on outside this meeting.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favour? That's fine, that's carried. So, item 5 is medium-term financial forecast for the next 2024, 25 to 2026 to 27 with the revenue and capital budgets for 2024, 25 onwards. Councillor Whip.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, Damon and Gemma Louise will be able to go into greater detail, and I just wanted to sort of look at the headlines, as it were, and look at the overall strategy. And I will move resolutions when I've finished speaking, if that's all okay with you, Chairman. There won't be the recommendations on the sheet of paper. There will be amended versions of those. So the work that's been done this year has set us in good stead and gets us into a good position looking at the next financial year. And I'm also grateful that the funding shortfall has, at least in a little part, been recognised by government, because the minimum income guarantee has been increased, and that means that we get a little bit more funding from central government. That pales into insignificance with the funding that we've lost over the last decade and more. However, I'm more than prepared to say that, you know, every little helps, and I'm grateful that at least in part the underfunding of Pendle Council, together with the underfunding of lots of other councils, has been recognised a little bit. Given that there's a £4 billion shortfall of funding for local government as a whole, clearly the hard £800,000 that they put in is a bit of a smidgen in the ocean, but I unashamedly welcome that. I think looking at the next financial year, we are not badly placed. However, there are two very big caveats to that. The first one is all around the capital programme, which I'll come back to. The second one is the cliff edge that we face in the future as a consequence of those changes. And the significant, the more significant figures are all around food waste collection and the cost shunting from the County Council of the transport of waste from Pendle to the disposal facilities that the County Council has. And these are very round figures, but it looks like there is around more than £7 million needed to be spent on food waste collections and waste transfer stations. The revenue consequences of that are a minimum of £800,000. Now, I say a minimum. I think the figure, the real figure, is higher than that. But we're not sure yet what, if anything, the government will give Pendle Council and other councils to run the food waste collections. We know on the capital side that they're not given enough money to buy the 9 trucks that are needed and all the ancillary equipment that's needed to bring that system into operation. And the DEFRA, who are driving this, don't appear to be talking at all to DLUC about the difficulties. So one government department is saying, well, you've got to do this, that and the other at a cost of many millions of pounds, and another government department is saying, well, that's what you've got, lads, get on with it. And you know, the two do not meet. So there is a huge issue, not only facing Pendle Council, but facing councils up and down the country, as to how on earth we're going to make those legal obligations and stay within a balanced budget. And as I say, you know, the capital cost is into the millions, the revenue cost is several hundreds of thousands of pounds. Unfortunately for Pendle, the County Council is cost shunting many millions of pounds onto this authority. Up to press, Lancashire County Council has paid for the waste transfer station at the end of the M65 on Regent Street in Colne. So all our bin wagons have been able to tip off locally, handily, get back on the rounds, go and collect the bins. The County Council are saying to Pendle Council they're not going to continue with that arrangement, and we have the option to send bin wagons down the M65 30 miles, 50 odd miles, 60 miles there and back, and you can do that at a revenue cost of goodness knows what. Or Pendle Council and other councils in East Lancashire, you can build a new waste transfer station and we'll pick your waste up from there. Now, that gives us an absolutely impossible equation. There's a capital cost in these figures of £5 million to build a waste transfer station. Now, once you've borrowed that 5 million, your interest payments on that and your repayments on that are huge. So that gets added onto the food waste collection bill, and that's where the minimum of £800,000 a year has to be found. And I'll remind you that the gross budget for Pendle Council is what, 16, sorry, the net budget for Pendle Council is 16 million or thereabouts. So you're talking a huge increase in costs for a little old district council like Pendle. Meanwhile, Lancashire County Council are coining it in, because they're going to take our food waste. We might have to ship it all the way down the M65, but they're going to take our food waste, they're going to generate electric in a super duper anaerobic digester, and they're going to save £4 to £5 million a year. Now, I would say Lancashire County Council have already supported these transfer stations elsewhere in Lancashire. They've paid for them, and they're either jointly operated by District Council and the County Council, or the District Councils operate them and Lancashire pick up the waste, no problem. No extra cost to some other councils. It's the East Lancashire authorities that are so badly affected by this. So the County Council say they're going to make a saving overall. The reality is they're shunting costs onto councils like Pendle and others in East Lancashire, which they are currently bearing, and the consequences for Pendle Council are, well, unaffordable. We can make it stack up, but it literally is like going over a cliff edge. If the short-term funding that I spoke about earlier, the minimum income guarantee, disappears, if the whole of these costs land on our desk, then, well, I think, you know, lads and lasses, it's time to go home, because there will be an absolutely unsolvable financial situation that we would be unable to implement without slashing every other service that we have in Pendle that is discretionary, and reducing the level of service that you get for statutory provision as well. So that's the bad news that I was referring to earlier on. I think this is something that we're going to have to grapple with, but as it stands at the moment, the figures in this report, the capital programme, do reflect that £500,000 of waste transfer station cost. It may be we can do it cheaper. It may be that the County Council will actually get their hand in the pocket and pay for it, because that's what they should be doing. And the figures also reflect the cost of the food waste collections. So, Chairman, I'll move the proposal at the moment because it's an opportune time to just sort of draw breath. But if you look at the front page of the report, recommendations, I would move that we note the medium-term forecast position for 24-25, 26-27, and the savings required over the period of the forecast, and add in the words "with the gravest of concern regarding the financial cliff edge posed by new food waste collections and County Council requirements for a waste transfer station." Is that okay, Jen? Yeah. Recommendation B, to note the budget requirement for 24-25 on the general fund. Item C, note the proposed fees and charges for 24-25 being recommended by the management team to the council. Just delete item D. So the next one is as written. E, require each service to operate within its budget once approved, and that these budgets be cash limited and subject to regular monitoring and control. And then F, note the proposed capital programme for 24-25 as shown in Appendix F, and G, as set out, except it's in G now, so we'll have a new G, which is that Lancashire County Council be informed of the grave financial situation faced by Pendle Council and other East Lancashire authorities as a consequence of their cancelling the waste, well, it's waste disposal arrangements, but it's the current waste transfer arrangements at Regent Street in Colne, and call for a member level meeting at the highest level in order to get the County Council to stop cost shunting onto Pendle and other East Lancashire authorities in this way. Something like that. It might need tidying up a bit. But the thrust of that is, let's go to the top, see the leader of the County Council, argue the case, say why East Lancashire authorities being financially penalised, and I would use a stronger word than penalised, because I think that we are being, I don't like to use the word crucified, but I think, you know, that is the reality of the situation, that they are shafting us by doing this, particularly when we are faced with these other unprecedented increases in costs. So that's the proposal with a little bit of a comment. I did want to go into the rest of it, but I'll canter through very briefly because I know Damon wants to come in. So paragraph 17 talks about, well, it's the paragraph is headed Fair Funding Review, and what it says is that there isn't going to be one. There isn't going to be a fair funding review, which have been promising us for goodness knows how many years, and that is what we desperately need, is that fair funding review, which would mean that the resources coming from government to Pendle Council and other similar authorities would be adequate rather than inadequate as it is at the moment. On page 9, I just want to reflect on paragraph 25, where there's reference there to how efficient Pendle Council has become. So in 2010, the report tells us that we had 311 members of staff, and that the number of staff that we've got now, delivering this virtually the same level of services, has gone down to 200. So in terms of, in the last 13-14 years, there has been efficiency savings on the staff side in excess of 35%, and I think that is significant, and I think that is needs to be borne in mind when we look at the future and the demands that the government are making. Ploughing on page 12, there is reference to new charges, and there's a phrase in there that says, I can't just find it now. It says the council is proposing to introduce their charge for bulky waste collections. Well, I just want to make it clear at this point that I'm not proposing a charge for bulky waste collections. when we get to the budget meeting. I don't know what's going to happen, but if anybody's reading this or watching this online, then I just want to make it clear that the council referred to is the council staff who were putting this forward, not councillors. So the phrase in there is a little bit out. I think the next bit I want to refer to is the capital programme, and of course I can't find it now, so no, I can't see it at all, sorry.
Page 14 or
Go on,
page 14 or is it the second?
are we on 14? There's more than one page 14.
Paragraph 46. 46?
46, come in number 46, your time is up. So these are the broad brush figures in terms of the programme here, and I wanted to sort of just spell out the figures that I've already mentioned, which are in terms of those big numbers. The other one is the cost of cemetery development, which again is a very significant amount of money, and taken together with everything else gets into the realms of fantasy financing. Now Damon and Gemma Louise have done a wonderful job in increasing our headroom, but I would just make the point that the borrowing headroom can go up, the affordability of actually borrowing the money becomes an issue. So there is a balance to be struck there, and as I've said earlier on, the affordability when we've got a cap on council tax and we haven't got enough government grant coming in, well, it goes out of the window really. Just picking up on something that I think is really positive, and it is my ward, so you would expect me to mention it, is Earby flood defences, where I'm not particularly being optimistic, but in my bones I feel that we are making real progress towards unlocking 2.5 million of external funding that would allow us to do further flood alleviation work in Earby, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. May all go sour on us, but so far so good. The rest of it I think is self-explanatory, and I think at that point I won't sit down and shut up, but I'll continue to sit down and shut up. So I'm moving the proposals as I amended, with that additional thing about sticking it to the county council.
Thank you, Councillor Wick. Yeah, I'll happily second what's been proposed. I mean, this financial year we're having to make savings of over £1 million, which is a significant amount considering we're a small district council. Again, coming under pressure from the government in general. But we have to have a balanced budget. So you know, it's really important that, you know, if we find efficiency ways, you know, savings right across board, and then also we've got proposals for capital programme with different things, including the cemetery there. You know, you've got some key areas with the Pendle Ledger Trust, with energy costs rising, and then we've got the property services coming back in house. So everything plays their part. In relation to the food waste transfer station and also the weekly food collection, we are being put under some significant pressure by the government and actually County Council, for that matter. As a leader, I've been raising this at district leaders meeting at every opportunity, trying to get like a one-off capital payment towards the transfer waste station, but we're not getting any not making any progress with, because they're not prepared to listen to us at this stage. But I will, as a leader, will continue to lobby and knock on County Council's door to ask for funding to help us to kind of implement these changes. And with the weekly food collection, this can cost us in the region of £7 million. Again, we'll just go bankrupt at this rate. In another 2 years, we won't exist as a council if these changes are implemented without any funding provision. That's what I would like to say. Damon.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to raise a point about recommendation D. The purpose of this executive meeting is to make a recommendation onto full council to set the council tax. And I would advise that we can change the recommendation to note the recommendation in line with the other changes that was made, rather than take it out. Because at full council, you have to be presented with a budget, and then you can debate and alter on the night. So it's just an amendment to note the recommendation that this report is making.
Thank you, Damon. That's a valid point. Councillor Whip, are you happy to...
Grudgingly.
Happy to second it, yeah.
Grudgingly.
My second point is that at the full council meeting, I'll be presenting my Section 25 report, which actually will be pointing out the risks that Pendle and the whole public sector landscape is facing, and the points that you've made will be visible in that report, along with others that I think councillors and colleagues actually know about. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Damon. And thanks for I think over the last, including Gemma Louise, over the last couple of months, just simplifying and unpicking a lot of that detail within the budget department, and again providing us information very promptly. I think that's been very helpful and very useful for us. And I think regarding the fair funding review, I'm hoping that the incoming Labour government will, give us that long-term stability. Councillor Ale.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I echo your comments, and again, I'd like to give thanks to Gemma Louise and Damon for a very thorough, detailed, very simple to follow report. I also want to put a message out, or rather put some words of appreciation out for David Walker and staff who are obviously up against it in that department. I know there's an ongoing appeal with DEFRA for more funding, and of course further discussions with the LCC for support with costs. And whenever I meet David, I think we're very fortunate that we have officers who obviously care about these departments and obviously care about delivering on the tasks at hand, and not just sort of burying our heads in the sand. And again, to yourself, Leader, as well, for raising these Manchester District leadership meetings. I think, clearly, as an executive, there's only so much that we can say and do, and so we'd urge the powers to be to continue raising the voices at the right forums, because otherwise, as you've already pointed out quite clearly, we are facing bankruptcy right dead in the face. In terms of the waste transfer station, I know David and I have discussed the potential of some sites, and there's obviously discussions with LCC, but ultimately it comes down to where do we get the money from. Councillor Whip has obviously quite eloquently broken down the percentage of what just this one aspect of our budget is covered by this one demand. It's just practically impossible, and so to me, is this the government just setting us up for bankruptcy? And hopefully, colleagues who are sat not too far from us in this room will take this back to our representatives, that this is simply it's not on. We already face so many challenges with the conditions of living in the borough and in the district, and lastly we get put with further demands in terms of and the irony, in fact I'll move on from that, but the irony is the benefits that the food collections will bring is at the detriment of the conditions of living in our borough, and clearly that's not acceptable. So hopefully the powers that we will be listening and hopefully putting their hands in the pocket at some point.
Right. Okay. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Okay. That's carried. So item 6 is performance update report, 1st of April to 31st of December 2023. Damon?
Leader, I can take this report. This is a standard monitoring report. Each year we set out the key performance indicators by service area. We obviously monitor performance against them. We have a sophisticated monitoring system, and each quarter you get an update on how we're progressing. In the report it shows you know, in a summary level where we believe we are. That in section 9 you'll see key performance summary in that table. You know, 14 are green, 3 are amber, 6 are red, 1 data unknown. What we've been doing behind the scenes as we conclude our performance board meetings is really look at, actually, are we classifying the red, amber, green status in the right way, or are we setting ourselves up to fail? Because sometimes we've reported historically that something is red, when actually it's not red, it's on track. But it's not green because we haven't delivered it yet, so it should be an amber. And you will only know if you've delivered it after the 31st of March at Q4. So we've been wrestling behind the scenes in terms of our traffic light system. But you will see in Appendix A a summary of those key performance indicators, and you will see in the attached KPIs by exception, the red, amber alert status. So I'm happy to take any of these points. The report is for noting, and you will get your Q4 outturn report. At the same time in March, in fact it's actually next week, as a management team we're reviewing indicators to make sure that we've got the right indicators in place to start next year. And again, some of them that we've got in play this year we might recommend to you that actually we change, and there might be some others that we put in, along with the performance framework with Liberata. They're obviously delivering some of these performance indicators, and we need to ensure that we replenish and review them at the appropriate time. So the report's for noting. I'll take any questions on the report. Bear in mind that it's a work in progress, and you will only know how we've actually done at the end of the year. What is for sure, sometimes when it's a red, we know we're not going to hit it. That's why the commentary will reflect it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rose, did you want to comment on?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Picking up the point about sickness absence, it's a red performance indicator. It was last time we brought this report. We've been doing some work behind the scenes on that. We've got a special meeting of the corporate management team next week. We're going to look at that issue in depth, look at a range of different actions that we can take, that we can then bring forward in terms of supporting staff as well, but also looking at the triggers. So there's a range of different options the HR team have outlined. So we're going to be looking at it as a proper in-depth issue, because it is such a large issue for us at the council.
Thank you. I mean, that's positive. You know, we've discussed this previously as well. You know, we try to provide as much support as possible to all our staff. Councillor,
thank you, Chair. Just to comment on the major and minor planning applications, both have been completed within time. We've got the green performance indicators there. Obviously, previously we weren't at that point. I think it is something to celebrate that we're in this position now. And I would like to thank the team on the planning side of things for getting that to where it is.
thank you. Can I ask you, Damon, just regarding the coal abandonment?
Yeah.
Was it slightly higher than, only slightly higher than what we
Yeah.
what measures are we taking to
So
alleviate that, and also what other measures, obviously we provide digital platforms as well, so what else are we doing to promote that?
yeah, this is a key area of review under the banner of continuous improvement. We've got a workshop in a couple of weeks' time looking at our multi-contact strategy. Are we migrating people to fulfil their needs online? Have we got the website interactive enough with intelligent forms to complete what they need? Is the contact centre being manned and dealing and resolving issues appropriately? Is there different hours of contact that's needed? We need to look at actually What do the residents across the whole of the borough want and need and desire? Do they want a face-to-face service, or are they happy for self-fulfilment? So that channel strategy will inform the indicators moving forward. I'm speaking to the individual leads within Liberata to actually unpick those that we do feel are going the wrong way, this being one of them. So you'll have a detailed, I suppose, review, update in the next Q4 report, following the workshop, following a review of our strategy, and we'll know exactly where this is.
That's brilliant. Councillor Ahmed?
Yeah, that's one point I was going to pick up in terms of customer services. And David, just in terms of what you've just mentioned, in terms of what does the public out there want, I think it's a mixture really. I think there's people out there who are fine in terms of using IT and uploading documents, etc. online. But there are people in our communities who do struggle with that sort of stuff. So I think it's important that there's a balance, and there is the service for them people who do struggle with computing and IT. And the second one is domestic rates, the paragraph above that. That's, again, following the law stands up. I'm assuming the discussion which you're referring to will also include discussions on other aspects of the service.
So, if I may, Chair,
Damien?
again, I'm meeting the Revs and Bens lead next week to look at actually performance and actually looking at the end-to-end recovery process to make sure it's in keeping with best practice. Are we falling down in any area? Obviously, business rates, we have a shared benefit because we have a shared pool on that. But you know, we need to be hitting these targets along with council tax levels, along with debt recovery process. You know, my mantra has always been, as I've said to you when I joined the organisation, you know, no stone unturned. Let's look at every process. You know, in that continuous improvement culture, and this is revenue. This is lost revenue if we don't bring it in. So again, meeting with Revenues and Benefits lead at Liberata next week, Angela Jones, and I'll move this forward.
Thank you. All those in favour? Okay. We've got a forward plan. Are we okay with that? Thank you.
Good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.